Hey, hey, hey. What's good, fam? It's Tuesdays with Tawana. Yeah, it's Tuesday. I'm always grateful to have you in the building. Let me get my recording set up for the podcast on later. Not sure what's happening with my phone, so give me a minute. You gotta love technology, right? You gotta love technology. So, let's try to get this going again. All right, here we go. What's up, fam? I see y'all coming in the building. It's Tuesdays with Tawana with the Dr. Tad, Reverend T, Reverend Tawana, Dr. Davis. It's all good. Grateful to be here on this Tuesday. Grateful to build community one episode at a time. Grateful for you taking the time out to be with me. Sup, Tammy? Good to see you, my beautiful niece. Love you dearly. Oh, this is black, so let me move this over so y'all can see it with my yellow shirt. I'm representing once again Big Ty, who blessed me with some shirts. This is another shirt from Tizzy Tees. Tizzy Tees, Tizzy Tees. I'll make sure it goes in the comments. They have all types of shirts. So inspirational shirts, unisex shirts, shirts for men, shirts for women, graphic tees. So please make sure you support and represent black businesses this holiday season. Try to do your very best to focus on our small businesses, black businesses. Um, yeah, that'll be really, really great if you could make that happen. So, it's so apropos that we talk about supporting black businesses because today we're going to talk about representation matters, right? Last week we had an amazing conversation. Amazing conversation. We went over the 30 minutes. I was so grateful for all the comments and the feedback and the questions and the thoughts and the concerns and the truth telling that was going on. So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time or watching this for the first time, we do this vodcast and then we turn it into a podcast. So, if you hear me talking about other names or reading other comments, it's because on Facebook, I love to engage people in conversation. It's not just about me having a conversation for 30 minutes by myself, it is really about community. And before we begin to paint the visual for those who will be watching or listening later to a podcast, and for those who are watching, I know if you notice, I have this long ace bandage on my arm, and under it, it has some padding. So it goes from my fingers all the way up to the top of my arm. I did not hurt myself, I'm not in any pain, but I have been dealing with swelling and fluid on the left side of what was formerly known as my breast. Um, so, through radiation, and with radiation comes complications. So, I've been having some muscle spasms and with the fluid buildup. So, I am in physical therapy. My physical therapist is working very hard to get this fluid under control so that I do not have lymphedema, but she's a lymphedema specialist. So I wear this wrap for 2 days, I take it off, and then when I go back to see her on Thursday, she'll rewrap it again. I wear it for 2 days, take it off, and then I wear my compression sleeve every day during the day. So this healing ain't easy, right? This is the process of healing. So yeah, it's my life. This is what happens. So I'm grateful for every day that I get a chance to heal. How about that? Having a chance to heal, being on this side, to be grateful for healing. Hey, brother, I see you, Larry. Thank you for joining. Hey, sister, Tina Rose is in the building. Oh, absolutely. You're so welcome. So welcome. I don't want anyone to log on to this podcast and panic because they see this thing on my arm. So it is for healing purposes. So I am grateful. I am grateful for today, grateful for each of you, grateful I have the chance to heal, grateful for this gloomy day that just kind of has me chill and relax. Um, Yeah, grateful. So let's chop it up. We want to talk about representation matters. Um, we had an amazing conversation last week, so I want to kind of bridge that into this conversation to representation matters. Our representation, those that look like us, matters. Our mental health matters. Our lives matter. Our communities matter. All of that good stuff. Representation matters. So last week we had a great conversation about Thanksgiving. And I do want to begin the conversation by saying I reflect. I don't listen to the vodcast or the podcast again. It is what it is, because then I'll beat myself up and say, oh, I should have said this. I could have did that. That's too stressful. So I don't go back and listen, but I do reflect, and I encourage you to take some reflection time, whether it's on this vodcast or just in your own daily operations. It's always good to sit in silence for a moment and just reflect, to hear what your body is saying, to hear what your heart is saying, to hear what your mind is going through, and being able to release that and take some deep breaths. We talked about some breath work that we should do during this time, especially as Black people and Black beloveds, to make sure that we are on the healing side of this journey, and we are in control of the healing and not waiting for someone else to do it for us, because as we see and as we know, no one else is coming for us to rescue us. They're coming for us and at us to destroy us, mind, body, and soul. But we're going to combat that, right? We're going to combat that with our beautiful divine spirits and our communal spirits. We're going to do what it takes in community to build community so that we can live and not die at the hands of systemic ills, right? So on last week we talked about Thanksgiving, and we talked about, the inception of Thanksgiving, how Thanksgiving started with violence and genocide and brutality, and the heinous list goes on and on and on. And at the same time, we live in what is called America. And before we were taught the truth, and even in knowing the truth right now, we have used that time to gather as family, or to gather and to help somebody that doesn't have family, or who's doesn't have, they have family but they don't have food to eat. Hey, hey Jan, good to see you. Oh, thank you. Bless you. Appreciate it. So we use that time to give and to share, or to, be with our families. And we shouldn't stop doing that, because as a matter of fact, we probably don't have an opportunity to do that enough. Because not everybody gets vacation time. Not everybody has a job that affords them an opportunity to take time off. And when businesses are closed, sometimes people don't get paid and they have to work elsewhere. And I mean, the systemic ills just go on and on and on. But it's important that we understand that when we get together during these times, that the inception of these holidays, if you will, because we have embarked on the holiday season, really, it wasn't for us. It wasn't for love. It wasn't for family. It wasn't for peace. It was for capitalism. It was for the genocide of our First Nation and indigenous people. It was for the betterment of white people, the white supremacist thought, the white dominant thought, using enslaved Africans to, line their pockets, and or to receive scraps from the table, and how we created our meals and made it good for us. And we do the same thing here with Thanksgiving. We have created something that started off as something as heinous as Thanksgiving, and to change the name, okay, you still want to look at the intent. So when we talk about representation matters, when we prayed on Thursday, because I was with family on Thursday, we remembered those that have gone before us, and the indigenous people whose land we stand on right now. So when we begin to remember and truly insert representation into our narrative, that will free us. That begins the road to freedom and liberation from that which was designed to hurt us and kill us and to demean us. So it's a beautiful thing to get together with family. It's a beautiful thing to get together during those holiday seasons that America has deemed holidays and a time of celebration. And we can take that. We've always taken things and turned it around, right? You know, when they tried to destroy us during, you know, when we were enslaved, we turned that around and it strengthened us, and we moved and we built churches and schools and communities. And then during the civil rights movement, leaders emerged out of the tribes and out of our villages, and we continue to pass laws that they're trying to reverse now, including voting rights laws and civil rights laws and human rights. So we always have the power and the wisdom and the beauty and the mysticism and the magic to and the resilience to turn this around. So now we have an opportunity, as my brother mentioned last week. You know, it's good to get together with family. It's good to get together with family because that's all we got. Until we continue to build community that becomes like family, right? That extended version of family. How LJ, good to see you, beloved. Amber is in the building. What's up, sis? What's up, sis? She said, I mean, Dr. Sis. Well, Dr. Amber is in the building. So right back at you, beloved. Right back at you. Yes, help us. Help us, Almighty, Holy One, all powerful. Somebody come and help us. So as my brother Larry mentioned last week, it's a beautiful thing for us to get together for Thanksgiving or Giving Thanks Day, or however you want to design it or call it. I think it's important to remember those where it's not a Thanksgiving, and it's quite triggering and traumatizing for those that have to think back to their family members that were killed at the hands of white supremacy during what is deemed now as Thanksgiving. So just remember that. It's remembering. Womanist Thought and Mother Carolyn talk about this remembering, this redoing, this reconnecting, if you will, of this Sankofa moment. You know, going back to reach back and to bring forth that which is good. We don't want to bring back times that we were enslaved. We don't want to bring back the genocide, the attempted genocide of our First Nation indigenous folk. We want to bring the beauty of all of those traditions and cultures that we had before we came to this country, and the traditions and cultures that were here before they invaded this country and called it their own. Hey sis, good to see you. Tony, I'm glad you are here. Again, if we all can pause and just send love and light to Tanisha Alexander, send some love and light her way, to her family, to her children, but particularly her husband, who is in the process of healing. We Dr. Amber, thanks taking. Send some love and light to Tanisha and her family. Keep them lifted in your thoughts and in your prayers, and however you center yourself and send and you intercede for someone. I ask if you can please do that for my beloved Tanisha. I would greatly appreciate that. So we're called to bring forth that which gave us life. We're called to bring forth that which built our culture and our spiritual acumen and our resilience. We are called to build and bring forth. Thank you so much, Reverend Brandy. I appreciate it. Tanisha, you're getting some love, baby. I hope you are receiving the love right now, because we love you dearly. So when we talk about Thanksgiving, right, it's more than just saying, oh, we're not going to call it that, or oh, we're just not going to celebrate that. We're going to get together as a family. and the inception and creation of it was heinous. So if we change it and switch that to a day where we get together with family, let us not forget those that died at the hands of this systemic ill. Let us not forget those that died at the hands of those that called it Thanksgiving, that fake left go right. Yeah, let's exchange this, let's do this, let's have dinner, and now I'm gonna massacre your family. Right? Mother Carolyn, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, come on, send that love to Tony and her family. Yes. Yes, during this holiday season that we've just embarked upon, when we talk about representation matters, it's really our representation, because everything, a lot of things, many things, not everything, a lot of things have been whitewashed, and our stories have been diminished or dismissed or erased, or we're ignored or silenced. And so we must not insert ourselves into this heinous narrative, but create a new narrative, create a narrative that is full of community and love and black power and blackness and black prowess and black culture. So when we talk about representation matters, it is important to insert our story and our being into spaces and places that didn't honor us. So let's talk about the Thanksgiving Day parade, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. Um, I watch the parade all the time. I grew up watching it every Thanksgiving. We would cook. We would watch the Thanksgiving parade. We would cook. My mom, this is when my mom was alive. And then we would watch March of the Wooden Soldiers. Do y'all remember that? Am I aging myself right now? The real, like, to watch it now, you would say like it's poorly made because it's so old, right? Oh, hey, Mama Lovey. Yes, I'm glad you made it. Glad you made it. So we would watch March of the Wooden Soldiers. And so in a Macy's Thanksgiving parade, the day they end with a Black Santa, I'm done. They haven't done it yet. But I watched it this year, and we were represented on various levels as the guests who perform, dancers, like singers, dancers, people on the floats themselves, um, the balloons with it's a character. I don't even know. It's a newer character, and I think she's a scientist or something. And she has two Afro puffs, and she has chocolate skin, and she was one of the balloons on one of the floats. And see, this is what happens because I was eating and doing other stuff and watching and talking. On one of the other floats, I didn't get the name of the person that was being represented, but the woman was the on the float, as the character on the float had cornrows in her hair. Um, and then what struck me the most when we talk about representation matters, what struck me the most and brought tears to my eyes was when our First Nation indigenous people said a blessing and did their traditional dance and had on their traditional gear. Um, it was absolutely amazing to see an indigenous person in their native language say a prayer and a blessing in that moment at the Macy's Thanksgiving parade. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. Tammy, it wasn't Doc McStuffins, although I love her. Yes, it wasn't Doc McStuffins. So we have another beautiful black girl with dark skin and Afro puffs. So if somebody could find that name for me, I would have greatly appreciated. And yes, beloved, peace, my king. Jay's son is in the building. Ada Twist, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, was the scientist. Brandy is the bomb. That's all I got to say. We're gonna do a whole podcast with Brandy one day. I promise y'all. I didn't even ask her. Like I'm just voluntold her right now. But when we talk about representation matters, all of those different cultures and different hues and people of color, specifically Black people, because as we know, Black people is are often omitted out of the group people of color, which is why we call it BIPOC, which I'm not crazy about that either, but it's Black indigenous people of color, because Black and indigenous people have endured, and this is not oppression Olympics, this is not trauma Olympics, but we have endured the most trauma and heinous acts in this country among all groups. It doesn't, and that's not a badge of honor. Please know that. I am not bragging, because if anybody else wants that title or that tag, you can have it. You can have it. Y'all heard it right here first time. Reverend Brandy said, yes, ma'am. Yes. Jade Jones is in the building. Good to see you. Good to see you. Glad you are here to chop it up just for a few moments. So when we talk about representation matters, it's important that we see ourselves. We see ourselves in commercials. I don't know if y'all saw the commercial. Hey, Pastor Khalil. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. When we talk about representation matters, first of all, look at the representation that is viewing this right now and commenting. We have beautiful Black pastors and educators and business people, retirees, retired pastors, retired from civil service, military. We must be represented, and we must be represented accordingly. And when I talk about representation matters, I mean that we need to be honored and acknowledged, and they need to be seen, because we are the movers and shakers. Everything that we do and experience, 9 times out of 10, we have built it, we have made it, we have created it, we have perfected it. So it's so important that we are represented on all levels. So there's a commercial with a grandfather, and he's with his son and his grandson, and they're shopping, and all they see are white Santa Claus sitting sitting on Santa's lap, and all that. It's just white Santa Claus. So the grandson goes under the tree, moves all these gifts out of the way, and grabs a gift and gives it to the grandfather, and it is a stocking with a Black Santa. I love it. I'm here for all of it. Blackity, black, 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 black. Here for representation matters. So imagine a little kid looking at that and now realizing, oh, come to think of it, we really haven't been represented in this area. So let me look for a gift for my family that represents who we are. Let me get a doll that looks like me. Let me get a game or buy a movie that is made for us and by us to watch with the family. You start to think differently once it's brought to your attention. So when we see all these commercials with Black people in leading roles, and whether it's a Tide commercial or any other type of commercial, and we see us, that wasn't the norm for me. And I'm only 51, watch it. Only 51 years old. And that was not the norm for me. It was not something that I was used to seeing at all. Let's see what Brandy has to say. Brandy says the float was the future STEM. So let me tell y'all something. First of all, I need y'all to read this quote, because I need new glasses, and glasses are hella expensive. So can I just say that? Can I just name how healthcare is just not healthcare? It's not available to everybody. I need new glasses. When my reading glasses don't work, that is a problem. So, Olay's, so it was Olay's, her future is STEM. It's STEM-sational. Wow. For STEM careers. The woman was an astronaut. Come on now. Representation matters. Tammy says Black people have literally built this country. Absolutely. And has shaped it. in the sciences and etc. Our hands have been in every aspect from day one. Absolutely, beloved. Absolutely. Oh, Reverend Brandy said she just Googled the parade. Thank you. Thank you for that information. I need to name that on this broadcast when we're talking about representation matters. It truly matters when we're looking at announcements of people being the first Black CEO of a Fortune 500 company or Fortune 100, or the first Black woman to do this, or when Vice President Kamala Harris, when President Joe Biden had a procedure, she had to step in and she was president for that day or two. I mean, it wasn't, you know, a huge deal because he was going in for a regular procedure. It wasn't like he was sick for some time. But she was the first Black woman president, first woman, let alone first Black woman, right? So representation matters. Representation matters in all that we do to make sure that we are represented as we are going through and moving through this holiday season, making sure that we are represented with our culture and our families and our community. And we're not just conforming to the status quo. We're not getting caught up in capitalism. We're not being caught up in spending rent money to buy gifts and then later on not having the money that we need. If you don't have life insurance, then I implore, I beg, I encourage you, go get that life insurance before you go and buy that $500 phone. We got to rethink how we do this capitalism. We got to rethink how we do and invest in our communities and our families, because representation matters. Why does it matter? Because what happens at the end of the day, if we're not at the table and we're not creating our own spaces at the table or building a damn table ourselves, then that means we are not going to be represented. Like right now, when they are stopping our voting rights, when they are stopping the George Floyd bill that they tried to pass, when the infrastructure bill started at $3 trillion, went down to $1 trillion, and we're still not represented in that bill. So representation matters. Representation matters when someone like Dr. Falami then creates holistic alchemy, where she is creating spaces to heal folk, or when Reverend Brandy is out there preaching against the status quo with her humble self and her brilliant self, when Tamika is out there and she's making sure that her company has Black folk doing things and is properly represented. So we all have an opportunity to insert this narrative of representation matters. We're either going to create it or we are going to fight the systems that are trying to ignore us and silence us. But we will not be silenced. We will not be silenced, because it's our silence that will kill us. We must speak up and speak out and make sure that we are represented. And not only that we are represented, but when we are represented, that we don't represent ourselves as Black people and then we are very whitewashed. Because we know the saying, I don't particularly care for it, but we know the saying, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Because their minds are now thinking in a way of oppression and marginalization, and they're only thinking about capitalism and capitalistic views. Dr. Falami says, my new soror is the first Black female first Black female NFL coach. Yes. Okay. Representation matters. For the New York Jets. For the New York Jets. Yes. Absolutely. Representation matters. So that internalized oppression, right? When I was talking about circling back to Thanksgiving in our last few minutes, when we just start thinking and we just do things by force of habit, and we just do things and we don't think about the indigenous people. We don't think about our ancestors during this time, and we must put them at the forefront of our being so that we can move forward and carry along their legacy, carry along what they left for us to build, carry along that divine prowess and their mysticism and their beauty and their resilience, and carry that with us moving forward, because we may not, and we've done it. We fought Columbus Day, and yes, it's Indigenous Peoples Day, I'll take it. I'll take it. When we can defeat, if you will, the colonizer, I'll take it. So one day, maybe Thanksgiving will be viewed differently because we should not be celebrating the attempted genocide of our beloveds. The part about representation without authenticity and intentional healing, I can't really see because it's black and I don't have on good glasses. And intentional healing from trauma, both collective and individual, is violence. It's violence. Full stop. It is violence. It is abuse. It is a cycle of abuse. When we talk about domestic violence, right? Let's talk about the domestic violence here in the United States. But the only difference is that I didn't get my apology. I didn't get my 40 acres and a mule. I didn't get my reconciliation. How can you reconcile something that hasn't been reconciled? How can we reconcile something when someone has not acknowledged their own participation in the dehumanization of another, in the disrespect of another, in the marginalization and oppression of another? Until you say, yeah, I've done that. I've reaped the benefits of this and I will no longer do that. How can I change that? Well, you can change that when you're sitting in the boardroom or sitting at the table at Thanksgiving with that racist person and calling them in to have a conversation so that we all can be free. So when we talk about representation, we're not talking about just on our commercials, on TV, magazines. You know, we still walk past the magazine rack. It's not as big as it used to be, but we still see a whole lot of white people on the cover. There was one time I was in an area I couldn't even find an Essence magazine. I had to subscribe to it so it could be sent to my home just so that I know what's being represented. How are we being represented out there? So representation matters even in the midst of heinous times and the creation of these pagan holidays and so on and so forth. Let us just remember, as I said earlier, like with Mother Carolyn, let us remember, let us reconnect that which we know, which is much better than what we experience. Representation matters on TV. Representation matters at our dinner table. Representation matters right here in this moment. The reason why I do a vodcast to a podcast is because I need you to see this black face. I need you to see this black woman. I need you to hear this black voice. I need you to experience all the feels that you get when you see this black woman speaking or preaching or sharing, emoting, crying, laughing, joy. I need you to experience the fullness of that because that is not the norm. So do I just want you to hear my voice and make assumptions? No, I want you to be able to look in my eyes and understand who is saying these words about representation matters. This is why I do what I do, to build community, to build a black community so that we can fight and do the things that we do together. This black PhD, this black woman PhD. I have a whole bunch of friends that cross that line, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of us. So you just know that we showed up making sure that we were represented in a field that normally does not represent us. So that's our time for today. Just something to think about as we are embarking on this holiday season, to ensure that we are well represented, to ensure that we put ourselves first, to ensure that we take care of our families, to ensure that we love and take care of ourselves first, to ensure that we acknowledge and honor the divine in us during this holiday season, to make sure that we remember those where this season is not as joyous. They may not have a family, they have lost family members. COVID is still real. The diseases that disproportionately affect us are still real. People may not be able to eat the foods that we eat. People may not be able to get out and celebrate. Let us represent, even in the small, what you think might be the smallest moment, might be the biggest moment someone might experience. If you just see them and acknowledge them and tell them, I see you and I love you. And with that, I see you, beloved. I love you. I do this because I love you, because I want to live, and I want us to live and not die at the hands of systemic ills, systemic racism, the disparity in healthcare, the economic disparity. I don't want to look down on another beloved because they don't look like me or dress like me or talk like me. You are my brother or my sister, no matter where, what class, or how, this United States tries to put us in these boxes with gentrification and redlining and putting the guns in on the streets so that we can continue to kill each other. I see you, and we can do better, and we will do better together as a community, as long as we remember that representation matters. I love you dearly. I thank you for rocking with me. Share this video if you feel moved to. I'm so grateful. I will see you next Tuesday, and we will find another topic to chop it up about. I'm grateful for the engagement, and hopefully at some point in time I'll get some new glasses so that I can actually see the comments when they pop up on the screen. Hello, these glasses are expensive. But anyway, I love you. I see you. Enjoy your day today. Be blessed. And just don't forget that representation matters, beloved. Later.